Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golick look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. Back with you on a Thursday morning. Golick and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Always good to start a segment with a little U2. By the way.
Sure.
Desire.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes all the sense in the world because inside radio thing, that little sounder that we rejoin that we came in was you and Stugatz talking about the bourbon chicken.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that sums up what desire is for you.
Free samples
and more
in a
food
food
and free
court.
Food.
Without a doubt. Try some. Yeah, absolutely.
And the bourbon chicken is the one that always gets. I'm learning something that I did not know.
That's the one you kind of see out there a little bit to kind of hook you in to order. Yeah.
The bourbon chicken?
Bourbon chicken.
So a little chicken, a little
works
booze
pretty
on
well.
top of it?
What's bad with that?
Good combination all the way around.
Yeah.
Todd McShay, our ESPN NFL draft expert, will join us. He's down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama in just a few minutes. Talk about what's going on there in practices, and we'll get into a lot of positions as well, but specifically this is going to be a quarterback-heavy first round.
Yes, it is.
And a lot of teams in search of quarterbacks either through free agency or the draft this year. So we'll see who's doing well and who's not doing well going forward. Plus, at the bottom of the hour, our legal analyst, ESPN's Ryan Smith, will join us to talk about what happens next now in the scandal involving USA Gymnastics and the U.S. Olympic Committee with Larry Nassar, who was sentenced to wherever long he chooses to live in prison. He'll be there for the rest of his natural life after the things that he did to so many victims, sentenced yesterday to about 175 years.
Right. He's eligible. The key thing there, he's eligible for parole in 99 years. So
good luck with that.
See you there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, enjoy.
And yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun.
Yeah.
So we'll get into with Ryan what comes next because Michigan State's president is already stepping down and resigning because Larry Nassar worked under the auspices of Michigan State. But where does it go from here, and what's the legal culpability? Right. We don't know, but we'd like to find out. So we'll get that from Ryan Smith. We'll get to that again at the bottom of the hour, but before we get to Todd McShay, let's talk about what's trending. And Gronk now officially listed with a concussion on the Patriots' initial Super Bowl injury report. Not a surprise,
no,
Mike, but because it is now officially listed as a concussion, it means it's not about Gronk, it's not about the Patriots or their training staff. It's about the independent neurologist and going through the proper tests.
Yeah, they've made it very easy for coach, player. Hey, coach, to the player, you feel like playing? And the player says, yeah, I want to play. And somehow, some way you end up back on the field. No more with the head injuries. And that's absolutely where it needs to be at this day and age. In the concussion protocol, Bill Belichick has zero say in this, and which is a good thing. The medical staff will let Bill know when Rob Gronkowski can play. We'll let Rob know when he can go out there and play. Until then, there is no debating him even practicing, doing anything on that field. So it's the way it should be because there is this extra week. I think most people believe Gronkowski will be back. But as we know, they made their comeback in the second half without him. They won a Super Bowl last year without him. So they can win without him, but you'd sure rather have Rob Gronkowski out on the field helping you since he's the best tight end in the game. But we'll wait until he's cleared. And more importantly, the Patriots will wait until he's cleared before they get him involved in the game.
Absolutely. By the way, this hour of Golick and Wingo brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business. Continuing with what's trending, Kyrie Irving says a meeting helped the Celtics get back on track. Now, what we find interesting about this, Mike, is that the Celtics ended their 4-game losing streak, and they had a team meeting, and then they went out and after that fourth straight loss and turned it around. And Kyrie says the meeting really helped. The question then becomes, is Kyrie really talking about the Celtics? Or is he talking about the Cavaliers?
I mean, we're a cynical society right now, it seems. And, so we look at, okay, is he talking up his team or is he doing it while throwing shade somewhere else? And this coming off the heels of the Cleveland Cavaliers having the team meeting where a lot of finger pointing went especially at Kevin Love, and then they went out that night and lost again badly to the San Antonio Spurs, leading Ty Lue, who before the meeting said there's going to be no lineup change, to after that game, took one whole game to say I am going to make lineup changes. If you're going to have a meeting like that, you look to have something happen out of it, and nothing did. So yeah, I think Kyrie might have been trolling a little bit on that one to say, look, it worked for us doing well, not so much for my old team there that I got traded away from.
Yeah, and maybe that's us,
the cynic in us.
However,
sure.
He's done this before. Mm-hmm. His Instagram has always put up with interesting things that seem to have some sort of correlation.
It's the world we live in. You try and figure out where's the shade getting thrown, who's it getting thrown at, you know?
And the Cavs host the Pacers tomorrow night. We'll find out if that team meeting that the Cavs had after being blown out Saturday by Oklahoma
Well,
City.
we're looking for residual effect. They had the meeting. They got blown out by San Antonio. We think it's still going to work?
Well, Ty Lue also said we're going to make some changes.
Let's see what changes.
So we'll
You're
see
right.
if the meeting combined with the lineup
there you go.
Can get the Cavs out of their funk. And, boy, you want to talk something that may put you in a funk if it doesn't go your way. The MGM Vice President of Race and Sports, Jay Rude, revealed that there was a multi-million-dollar bet placed on the Eagles ahead of Super Bowl 52. Multi-million-dollar.
How'd they find out?
Well,
man. So the line has moved, right? It was 5.5. Now I believe it's 4.5. So I obviously don't know where it's going to keep moving to. I'm very bad at that kind of thing. But how about that? That's some love for the Eagles. Multi-million-dollar bet. That's awesome.
You know what I would like to be, Mike?
Yeah.
I would like to be the guy comfortable enough in my surroundings to say, yeah, it's just a couple million.
Well, see,
I'll throw it on there.
That's the thing. Like whenever I make no secret about it. My wife and I, we love to go to the casino. We love to go to the casino, but we only take money. Nobody likes to lose money.
No, but that you're willing to lose.
That an amount that you walk in, you say, okay, if I'm not going to walk out with this, that you're comfortable with. Not to say that you're always comfortable losing, but to not where it's going to have this dramatic effect on you. Correct? I would think the same thing for a bet. I would never make a bet anywhere if I were a betting man that would make me sit there so nervously saying this is going to be very bad for me and the life I live if I lose this bet. So I'm with you. To be in and I don't know this person, and I know there are some people that do bet that way, and that's why some people have the issues doing it. But I thought the same thing. Knowing the way I go about it, I would love to be in a position to say, a few mil that I know if I lose, I can live without, no problem. Well, that'd be just awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be a good way to go.
Yes.
I mean, look, like you said, you never want to lose money. But the casinos are big and shiny for a reason.
Yes, they are.
They normally win. So you have to go in with the parameter that, okay, this is entertainment money.
Right.
I would love to be able to say to myself, like $3 million, it's entertainment
Truly,
money.
when you go to a casino, truly disposable income.
Yeah, literally as disposable as it can be.
Exactly.
Because the house always wins, and that's why they can afford to do all that stuff for free for you, because they want you to keep going. By the way, Amazon's Alexa, if you ask Alexa who is winning the Super Bowl, she's picking the Eagles.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why, but she says, I'm flying with the Eagles in this one because of their relentless defense and the momentum they've been riding off their underdog status. EAGLES Eagles.
See, I don't believe that. I believe there's something that somebody can do to make Alexa say that.
Of course, someone programmed it that way.
I don't buy that at all. I hate AI. I hate it.
Well,
I hate it.
I think we all need. Elon Musk has been a very smart man on a lot of levels. Tesla, SpaceX.
Right.
He's telling people, let's pump the brakes here. Okay, you see these videos of people making these robots that can run, jump, do triple backflips and all this kind. I'm like, do you not understand you're plotting our demise?
Now, listen, I'll invest with that guy because that guy's got it going on.
But he's the one telling us to slow it down.
I'm not a fan of any kind of artificial thing like a robot becoming smarter than us or already smarter than us, but taking over. This whole driving the cars without a driver, this automated, I don't like. And that's coming down the road.
I kind of like the idea of the automated driver, so you can just sleep. But
do you trust it enough to go to sleep?
No, I don't. I actually don't. I would not.
Nobody's driving the car.
That's a problem.
Man, that would be a tough one for me.
By the way, in total fairness, if you ask Siri from Apple, who's going to win the Super Bowl, she says, I'm hearing that the Patriots are favored by 5.
Well, she's not picking. She's not making a pick like Alexa is.
She's just going off.
She's just going off the number.
News. Yeah,
right.
Alexa's taking it to a next level.
Right.
And the next level with AI is what scares the hell out of me.
I'm with you.
You know who also scares the hell out of me?
Who's that?
Todd McShay.
Ask him a question, see what answer he gives.
knows. He knows everything. Yeah. Our draft experts down there at Mobile, Alabama, getting ready for the Senior Bowl.
Oh, this show, you're completely off the rails.
Well, no, that's the beauty of the show. We have no compass. We have no rudder. We are all over the place.
You went from a $3 million bet to Alexis and Siri, and then Elon Musk.
Yeah, and then you. So there you go.
And
so
that's
a pretty good grouping there, big boy.
Why don't we just stay off the rails, Todd? And we'll ask you first. Okay. Would you shower in an airport?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I have once, I think, an international flight.
Right. It makes all the difference, does it not? It makes all the difference.
Yeah, I was listening to you guys earlier. A shower's a shower. I'll shower anywhere, inside, outside. I will not pick up the old dirty soap off the ground, though.
Yeah,
that's where I draw the line.
That's a line I think
everybody has a line. I get it, but he would take a shower. Okay, that's good to know.
So you're one of us. That's
there.
Good.
You go.
Okay, so speaking of getting us back on the rails, who is the one right now, the quarterback that you're being the most impressed with? Because we could have, 4, maybe potentially 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round of this draft. Tell me the guy that's standing out for the right reasons first and foremost.
Wow, that's a tough one. The two guys that are projected first rounders that are down here competing, Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma and Josh Allen from Wyoming. I thought they both had their struggles in the first day of practice, which is understandable. I mean, you're taking in and trying to digest so much, from all the interviews to the public and PR stuff that you have to do, to a new system, new verbiage, new wide receivers, etc. But they really settled into a groove, I thought, yesterday afternoon. And the good part for just scouting purposes is they've both been the players that you've seen on tape. Now, it's not all good news, but at least it makes it difficult when you come down here and the player is a lot better or not nearly as good as what you've seen on tape with him. So for Baker Mayfield, he doesn't look the part. You have him standing next to 6'4" and 6'5" quarterbacks, and he's just, obviously he has to overcome that. And he has a good arm. It's not an elite arm like Josh Allen. So when you're that player, you have to be a Drew Brees. You have to be a Russell Wilson. You have to be exceptional in the pocket, finding passing windows. You have to be on time, and you have to be extremely accurate. And that's what he has been during team drills, 7-on-7s, and he's gotten better as it's progressed. And you can see that, the confidence kind of getting back in his game, and the energy and getting everyone around him fired up. And after the first day, I think he was a little shell-shocked by everything, and he came in late to the process because he had a family situation. And 2 hours before, he gets off the plane, throws on his pads, and he's on the field. So it was kind of understandable. With Josh Allen, it's so easy to be enamored by him because he does look the part, and he does have the elite arm strength. I'm talking, from whoever you want to say, Mike Vick to Roethlisberger to Matt Stafford. I mean, he's in that category. But he's inconsistent with his accuracy. And I think that's the most important part of playing the position. And he's been late on some throws, and then you can see that he's trying to speed up the process. So it's going to be interesting to see, because there's going to be some teams out there with good quarterback coaches and good offensive systems that they're going to think that they can develop him, and they're going to use an early pick on him, and I understand why. But there's a lot of risk and reward there. I'll say this. I think the most consistent quarterback here from the very first minute to the end of practice yesterday has been Luke Falk from Washington State. And it's been a little bit of a surprise because he was up and down this past year. Mike Leach can be very difficult to play for because of his inconsistencies and kind of emotional roller coasters. But he does not have a big arm, and he's going to have to overcome that. But I think he's shown a lot this week in terms of how quickly he digests things and processes information and how accurate he is. I've been really impressed with Luke Falk from Washington State. A
guy that could be improving his stock then, for sure. As far as Josh Allen, Todd, I'm with you. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where you have him as far as a mock draft is concerned. I have a serious red flag because I think accuracy is right at the top of what I need to see. And if you don't have it in college, I think it's very difficult to say, well, we're going to develop that at the next level. I think it is very difficult. So I'm not sure in my eyes, I'll be honest with you, Todd, what he can do to change my mind, because 98% of my evaluation for Josh Allen would be done already, as with all these players, and it's called their game tape. So what I'm going to see between this 1 week and then in shorts and a T-shirt at the Combine and Pro Days, I don't know if it's going to sway me enough if I already have that big of a red flag up on somebody for their accuracy issues. But to your point, you don't think that's going to deter too many, and he's going to still be that high pick?
Yeah, it's tough. It really is. Listen, I have him as, I think, the 15th best player in the draft. So, I'm clearly concerned about him being at that very top in the elite, whereas I've got Rosen and Sam Darnold in the top 3. So I think there's a difference. I really do. But I think, we saw with Mahomes, Pat Mahomes last year, there's a skill set there that is undeniable. And if you think you have the answers as to how you can get him to increase the efficiency, because he does show the ability to make accurate throws.
Right.
And he is better, and it helps in practice to watch. He is more consistent and accurate than that 56% when he's throwing behind an offensive line that was just terrible, and receivers that just couldn't get open. And when they did occasionally get a little separation and the ball was on them, there were a lot of drops. So you have to really evaluate all of those parts of it. But I'm with you, Mike. I just worry when the most important aspect of the game, the accuracy, is the question mark. I worry that the ceiling is not quite as high as many people want to believe because of the frame, the mobility, and the arm strength. Although I do like his competitiveness and kind of the way he attacks it, and he's got the right mindset. But I think the accuracy will come back to bite him at some point at the next level.
Todd McShay with us, our draft expert who's at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. Look, a lot of this is on quarterbacks, and we'll get to another position first, but I want to ask you about one quarterback that isn't able to participate and how much this may be hurting his ability to become a first-rounder, and that's Mason Rudolph. He looks the part as well, Todd. Had a great season at Oklahoma State, threw for a bunch of great stats, has the body you want, but he's walking in that boot right now, so he's not really able to get in there and do things. How much does that hurt him and his ability to be maybe sneak into the first round?
I don't think it's going to hurt him, but I do think it takes away from the opportunity to come out here and impress guys and to do it with other quarterbacks playing at a really high level. And, he has arm talent, and he could have, I think, shown well in this kind of setting. Now, I think the most important part would have been for the coaching staff that was working with him, whether it would be Houston with Bill O'Brien, who's been awesome, by the way. I don't know if you guys have had any time to watch the broadcast, but go back and watch some of it at some point. Just to listen to Bill O'Brien teach the quarterback position has been really cool. Or whether it was O'Brien or the Denver coaching staff, whichever team he would have been on. Rudolph, the questions with Rudolph are a little bit more in terms of how he's going to come from that Oklahoma State system and translate to the NFL. How quickly can he pick things up? You even see with their wide receivers, James Washington, Marcel Aitman, guys who are really talented college players and have great production. The struggles, just knowing what to do, where to go, and translating to an NFL route tree and NFL verbiage, and then also getting off the line with press coverage. I think there's some concern with that, and just trying to get to know Mason Rudolph and who he is and what kind of competitor he is and what he's going to bring to the table in terms of leadership. So I think it's that part is going to be dissected during the process when teams get to spend time with him, bring him into their facilities. At the end of the day, I think he's a day 2 pick. I think he's a second, third rounder where you bring him in and you hope he can be a great backup and maybe one day a starter, but you're not investing first round money in that and really where you believe that he's going to be your starting quarterback for the future.
Todd McShay with us from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. So if quarterbacks, Todd, are number one, guys that can get to the quarterback are just as coveted, if not slightly behind the QB. And it seems like every year there's a small school guy that may be excelling at that makes a name for himself at the Combine. Could Marcus Davenport, the kid out of UTSA, University of Texas San Antonio, be that guy? Because it looks like he has the measurables and the speed, and he was pretty productive in college.
Trey, he in 2 days has declared himself. He is the best player here.
Wow, best player there.
No question in my mind. I mean, it is every rep, it seems like. He is disrupting or finishing. And he is 34-inch arms, big frame, long. Reminds me of Ziggy Ansah.
Wow.
But actually has, Ansah, his whole backstory coming from Africa and not, I mean, his sophomore year at BYU, he had to have someone teach him how to put his shoulder pads on. So we're talking about a player in Davenport that is more advanced and has played more ball. And this guy can win with power, quickness. I mean, he has been really impressive. I think at the end of this whole process, he's going to wind up being a top 15 pick. And I saw him against your Baylor Bears in the opener, Wingo.
Yeah.
And
how'd that work out for Baylor?
They lost at home.
There you go.
Yeah, to Texas San Antonio. So, but he played. They probably ran 80 plays in that game. Baylor did, and I think he was on the field for 70. And 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, he's running from sideline to sideline, making plays all over the field. It's not just what a great workout he had, and he's big and looks the part. His tape matches up, and I think this is a guy that is going to be disruptive and is going to be a big time playmaker in the NFL for a long time.
All right, so we'll mark the name down right now. I think he's in the top 20 in terms of, or right around 20 in terms of how both you and Mel are grading him out. But he says best player at the Senior Bowl right now. I almost said combine. I'm getting ahead of myself. That's next month. All right, Todd.
We'll get there.
We appreciate you, brother. Hey, by the way, give Polian grief for dressing as if he was in Alaska yesterday.
No way, man. That's the highlight of the show.
I mean, it was everyone else is there in a little fleece or whatever. Bill's there in mittens, a hat. He looks like he just come off Santa's sleigh.
I loved his look yesterday.
It was rock solid. All right, Todd. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you on NFL Live later on today.
See you, fellas.
All right, Marcus Davenport.
Well, I've been watching practices, and he's been doing a great job in the one-on-one. Just has that reach about him, that length about him, and you just gotta love when the smaller school guys, because that's their chance.
Yeah,
that's their chance against the stars and the big name people to go in there and raise some eyebrows. So again, I'm always. It's great. I love it for
the opportunities for those kind of guys.
For now, somebody to go back and watch even more tape on that guy. Everybody knew who he was. He got invited there, but then you say, "Oh, okay, I'm going to watch a little more on this guy." But as I always say, just be careful. But I'm happy, especially for the smaller school guys, that get that chance. Because you're not sure, you see him perform at a different level, and then you bring him up with the other stars, and then they're kicking those guys' butts. You're like, okay, we got something here. That's pretty good.
Yeah, Marcus Davenport. Again, Todd McShay saying he's the best player right now at the Senior Bowl.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Golick Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golick look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. That was the judge sentencing Larry Nassar in a court in Lansing, Michigan. Yesterday, he will never see freedom again. He will be in that prison for as long as he stays alive. But that's just the beginning of what happens with this story and what are the legal ramifications going forward. We know that the Michigan State president has resigned in wake of things that went on while Larry was associated with Michigan State University. But Mike and I, we want to know what happens next and how it happens next, and we don't know that. So let's bring in our ESPN legal analyst, Ryan Smith. Ryan, we appreciate you being with us and sort of help us guide through this. Now, what can happen legally as this investigation continues to unfold? I know there's a civil lawsuit, but are there still criminal possibilities for people, whether it's at Michigan State, with the USOC or USA Gymnastics, if it's found out that they knew something and didn't do anything about it?
Hey, guys. Well, I think right now the bulk of the criminal focus was on Nassar, so that's behind us. I think what you could have a couple of things happening. First, Nassar's got another sentencing, presumably coming up in Eaton County. That's another county that was holding him to account for different criminal sexual conduct. And then there's talk about him also possibly facing charges in Texas. So he's got a ways to go. It's not the end of the line for him. And so you talk about how he's going to spend right now on paper, he wouldn't be paroled at the earliest until next century. They could add to that term. But in terms of other people being involved, right now the investigations criminally are not focused on administrators, people at USA Gymnastics. There could be failure to report charges, things of that nature. But I think authorities right now are focused on the Nassar part of it. So I don't know if we're going to see a lot of criminal action taken against people at MSU, at USA Gymnastics, or otherwise. On the civil front, there's a number of civil cases going against Nassar, against MSU, against USA Gymnastics. And I think those have a lot of legs at this point. I mean, you talk about Penn State and how overall they ended up paying out some $250 million in settlements and fees and all that kind of thing. That could be just scratching the surface here when you talk about MSU, USA Gymnastics, and all the things they're facing civilly. They have some good arguments, but the bottom line is a lot of the civil suits are saying that this is gross negligence. They failed to protect these girls from this person. They failed to establish precautions to protect. And just the facts behind a lot of that are just staggering.
Ryan, as far as criminal, going after someone criminally, you say that the focus isn't there right now. Who would have to initiate that if people wanted to know? Because all the talk has been, it can't be over now that this piece of garbage is in jail for the rest of his life. There were people that knew and didn't do anything. Right. And there are going to be people that want answers. How, if somebody wanted to, how do you go about, who do you go to that say, we want this person investigated, we want this person investigated on criminal charges?
You start looking at the police department, start looking at the different investigations that are going to happen. And Golick, I think it's going to work a little bit like this. Let's say right now you've got the civil suit, and you've got a civil suit filed against Michigan State. And if that's not settled, which I think it will be, but if it's not, you have discovery. Things start coming out. You start hearing more and more about what wasn't done and how these people weren't protected. That is something similar to what happened in the Penn State case. As we learned more, there started to be wind of other charges coming. That's how Graham Spanier, that's how the Penn State administrators started becoming a part of this. And then you saw criminal charges filed against them because of what they failed to do and how they failed to supervise and what they did and did not do in their actions. So I think the way that happens is the more information that comes out, and there will be a lot more information coming, police departments, I think, will be keeping an eye out to see whether or not different laws were violated. And I don't think that people are going to be very slow to file charges if they see there's something there. I mean, this when you look at it from a law enforcement perspective, you're talking about 150 or more young girls being abused by this man, multiple reports filed, requests to have this guy removed, criminal investigations, and nothing was done. Nothing seems to have really been done to protect these young women. So I think you've got police departments with their ears up trying to see what comes out of some of these investigations to see if there might be charges.
Ryan Smith, our ESPN legal analyst, with us talking about what comes next in the fallout after Larry Nassar was sentenced. And I think what you just touched on, Ryan, is the question that a lot of us that aren't legal experts don't quite understand. I believe one of the reasons the judge put up potentially 125 years was 1 year for every police report or criminal complaint that was filed. And that's the part I think that a lot of us that aren't legal experts are having trouble with. How could so many of these things go unnoticed and there not be some sort of criminal charges that could be coming forward from those?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Trey. I think when you look at this, this was an astounding story from the beginning because people like Rachel Denhollander have been for years talking about this man's abuse, and no one would listen. Not only on the front of the administrators and the coaches and all those people that were supposed to protect these young girls, but just in terms of the general public. This was something that people weren't paying attention to. But when you saw person after person come into that courtroom and talk about what they had suffered through, I mean, this man did things that caused people suicides, that you're talking about fathers taking their lives because of what happened to their daughters. You're talking about daughters people getting up there talking about how their daughters committed suicide. I mean, this is about as far-reaching as it gets with the most prolific child sex abuser in history. So I think when you have a situation like that, that's when you have to start looking at criminal charges. The problem for police departments is they're going to file things that they believe are good faith charges that can stick. So if they don't see something that is saying, okay, this person was approached, they were told to do X, but they enabled this behavior, but not just enabled, they permitted, knew about this kind of misconduct, and let it happen, then I think you'll start seeing charges. But that's going to be coming out in investigations. And I think what you had in Penn State and others is once that information started streaming out, then you started seeing police departments getting more active.
Okay, so we're talking to Ryan Smith, our ESPN legal analyst. So hearing what you said, I'm going to give you what my 2 cents thought is going to be on what's going to happen next. And what you're saying there about more information to come out, and that's what led to some of the Penn State upper, people in the upper seats there having criminal charges. So we've had the president of Michigan State step down, so people have someone to point at. We've had people at USA Gymnastics at the top levels there step down, so there's people to point at. It seems to me, so nothing more really comes out, that those two, Michigan State and USA Gymnastics, are going to settle for in this thing to try and end it. Am I correct in thinking that may be the way it goes, so they have this thing go away?
I think they have no choice, and I think they will spend every dime, or they're going to have to spend every dime they need to settle this. And the reason why is, Goldie, it's all about discovery. Once the discovery happens, everything comes out. That's any detail, anything, people talking about filing reports, going to coaches, trainers multiple times, and nobody ever did anything. We've heard the stories in the media about coaches forcing athletes to sign a card supporting Nassar. That's just scratching the surface. Once you get into discovery, everything comes out, and that's where you start looking at things like, oh, wait, do we see a criminal charge here? Do we see even more liability? And that's beyond just the horrible press that they're already getting that will get far worse if discovery comes out. So I think they have no choice but to settle. And so the question will be, how will they do that? Because right now they're doing what lawyers do. They're making their legal arguments, saying things like, well, a lot of the people filing suit, they weren't, say, for example, Michigan State. They weren't Michigan State students. We have sovereign immunity, so you can't really sue us. They're saying the kinds of things lawyers say at the beginning of discussions. But as this thing gets to brass taxes, you have to figure the biggest fear you have if you're Michigan State or USA Gymnastics is more coming out about all the things you failed to do, because that's not just civil liability, that's possible criminal liability.
Yep. And that's where this thing will head. Ryan, we appreciate you clarifying things for us in sort of a very plain and English way that makes sense. We appreciate you getting up with us this morning.
Thanks, Ryan.
Anytime, guys. Anytime. Take care.
Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.
All right, Golic and Wingo here with you. Again, 4 new members of the Hall of Fame in baseball: Vlad Guerrero, Trevor Hoffman, Jim Thome, and Chipper Jones. We had Tim Kirkchin on it, and Tim Kirkchin is just, he's a library. He's an encyclopedia. Mm-hmm. He's a computer. He's all of those things. So we had him on earlier to ask his best stories.
Right.
You just said, tell us your best stories.
Tell us a story on each of the guys.
No rehearsal. We didn't do this ahead of time.
Nope.
And these are the stories he came up with the top of his head off each one of these new Hall of Famers. Let's start with Vlad Guerrero.
Vlad Guerrero went to a tryout camp in the Dominican Republic on a bicycle. He was wearing 2 pairs of shoes that didn't even match. And one of the shoes was so too big for him that he had to stick a sock in there just to make his feet fit. That's how poor, that's how bad a situation he came from. He went to the tryout camp. He worked out for about 5 minutes, took a couple swings, and they said, get him off the field, sign him. He's so good.
It's incredible.
So on a bike, two pairs of mismatched shoes, one too big, stuffed socks, still didn't matter.
5 minutes, he was getting a deal.
Vlad Guerrero,
the man that got the most money per swing of anybody.
Oh, listen, his entire strike zone was about 12 feet long.
Just let the ball leave your hand, and I can hit it.
I've never seen a guy golf more home runs than him. All right, then there's the guy, Trevor Hoffman, second most saves all time, only to Mariano Rivera. Here's Timmy on that one.
Then there was Trevor Hoffman, who was throwing in the outfield in batting practice one day as a weak-hitting shortstop, and a friend came up to him, teammate, and said, you're a terrible hitter, but you've got a great arm. You should become a pitcher. So he worked on his changeup, and a couple years later, he's pitching in the big league, and 25 years later, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Wow. How amazing is that? You're preparing to do something professionally, and you're told you stink at it.
You're no good.
And you need to change it to do something else. And it works out to a Hall of Fame level.
So try this.
Yeah.
By the way,
incredible.
Paul Hembekides, Hembo, sent us this one. Odd fact, Babe Ruth actually has more innings pitched than Trevor Hoffman.
Yeah, how about that?
Which is crazy.
That
Babe
is
Ruth was a starter, and Trevor's a reliever, but still weird. And then there's Jim Thome. This one might be my favorite.
It's a good one.
Then there's Jim Thome, who's sitting in the crowd at Wrigley Field one day as like a 9-year-old, and somehow he sneaks past security and ends up in the Cubs dugout with about 2 minutes before the game starts. A 9-year-old in the dugout. He goes up to Dave Kingman and he goes, "You are my favorite player." And Kingman says, "Well, that's great. You have to go. The game's going to start." So they whisked Jim Thome out, and 40 years later, he's in the Hall of Fame with 612 homers.
Absolutely love that. And I think my best stat about Jim Thome, who played most of his career in Cleveland, is that, Trey, he had 13 career walk-off home runs, the most of any player all time. You want to talk about clutch hitting?
Right.
13 walk-off home runs, not hits.
Right.
Home runs.
Well, that makes perfect sense then, because that's the ultimate closer as a hitter, and he goes in with one of the ultimate closers of all time in Trevor Hoffman. And then Chipper Jones, who, by the way, one of only 2 number 1 overall picks to go into the Hall of Fame. And this was Chipper's introduction to baseball negotiations.
Chipper Jones was going to be the number 1 pick by the Braves, but the Braves came to his house for a pre-draft meeting with him to see if he was signable. Chipper's dad took him upstairs and said, "You're going to accept that money? They only offered one thing. You can get way more than that." And Chipper looked at his father and said, "Look, I want to be the number 1 pick in the country." And he said, "I'm going to be so good at this game, and I'm going to make so much money, I don't need to make all of that money right up front in my first contract." So he signed number 1 pick in the country and is now the second number 1 overall pick after Ken Griffey Jr. to go to the Hall of Fame.
Good for him.
Wow. He's a seer, too. He saw his future.
Well, I love the guys that bet on themselves.
Without
you know what I mean? I don't need this money up
question.
front because I'm going to make you pay me because I'm going to be that damn good.
So,
it reminds me of a couple of football players. Mark Rippon, the year before the Redskins won the Super Bowl and he was the Super Bowl MVP, they offered him a contract he didn't like. He said, "No, I'm going to bet on myself." In a game where he could, in a sport where you could go out on one play and your career's over. Super Bowl MVP, got a monster contract after that. Then one of our former colleagues, the Bus, Jerome Bettis, he didn't like his situation with the Rams, so he went and got in a trade. "I'll bet on myself," goes to Pittsburgh, goes to the Hall of Fame, bet on himself in free agency, and it was
Joe Flacco did as well.
Same thing, absolutely.
And won it as well. So, again, congrats to Trevor Hoffman and Vlad Guerrero, Jim Thome, Chipper Jones, and Alan Trammell, Jack Morris, who were voted in by the Veterans Committee. Edgar Martinez looks like he's going to be close enough to get in next year. And then we have 4 more years of Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds to see if they can improve upon their 57% and 56% respectively there. I think they will, but will they get to the 75% they need to get into the Hall of Fame in the next 4 years?
Tim says he thinks they will. That email from Buster, he believes they won't.
So the first time he said he doesn't think that he thought they would, and now isn't so sure. It's going to be could be a photo finish
down to the wire. And by the way, thank you, Tim Kirkjian. Again, none of that was rehearsed, just right off the top of his head. All right, here's what we got coming up tomorrow. Falcons head coach Dan Quinn will join us. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel will join us. Hall of Famer Howie Long. And we'll go live to San Diego to see how Tiger did in his return to the PGA Tour. That is a lot.
Yes, it is.
So enjoy whatever it is you're doing today, including showering at the airport.
Take a shower. Yes.
Hello, I'd like to deposit this to checking.
Fate is a fickle master.
What?
The future is uncertain.
Okay, and what's my account balance?
The horizon is cloudy. I see a long, treacherous voyage filled with great peril.
Look, can I just get a deposit slip or something?
A fortune bank teller. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I see a yellow-eyed serpent and a low APR.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.